You're listening to episode 61, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, directed by Joe Dante. Is this batch better than the first? Let's find out on this episode of Video Villa Podcast. So with May There Be a Sequel, if you go back to episode, I don't even know which one, we probably should note this.
Oh, no, I didn't take a note to see what episode
We were video,
it was.
and I think it was a Christmas one.
We were audio only.
When we did Gremlins?
Yeah, we were audio only.
Oh, okay. Well, way back when, so it was probably like in the first 10 episodes, I believe. In our Christmas series, we did Gremlins 1, but in true May There Be a Sequel fashion, we now bring you Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
Yes, this one, this movie, it has got some love, it's got some hate. This movie is crazy.
Yeah.
It's so... There's a lot to be said about this one, and when I was kind of mapping out the year, the episodes for the year, and I got to May, and I was like, okay, well, I definitely want to cover some other sequels, and I was like, well, we got to do Gremlins 2 because we already did Gremlins 1, and I think Gremlins 1. There's so many videos on the internet about Gremlins 1 and stuff like that, and the Gremlins is a great movie, and it's still, I just feel like it's talked about so much, but it's still a movie that you really enjoy. So I definitely wanted to cover it and stuff like that. Gremlins 2 it's funny because we're going to figure out by the end of the episode, we're going to say our opinions, which one we thought was the better of the two. So stay tuned for that. But I will say it's funny. I've seen Gremlins 2 more than I've seen Gremlins 1.
Yeah, I will say 2 is like, and no pun intended, but like its own beast.
Yes, 100%.
And as you just said, we'll get into that as we go through it and stuff, and particularly in the end. But yeah, just way left ball field with some things.
Oh yeah, man, the Gremlins 2 it's just so freaking crazy, and it's just unhinged. It's a lot of people will say it is a true Joe Dante film.
Mm-hmm.
With the first one not really being a typical Joe Dante flick, but with Gremlins 2 being just straight on, no guardrails, just Joe Dante being Joe Dante.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a pretty accurate statement when it comes to these movies. He really is a really good director.
Yeah.
He's made several, just really good fun movies. Like Inner Space is so freaking awesome of a sci-fi film. And Martin Short's just hilarious in it. You got The Howling, which we talked a little bit about during our American Werewolf in London review. You've got Small Soldiers, which is kind of like the same essence of like a Gremlins.
We've seen Small Soldiers.
Yeah, Small Soldiers I loved that movie growing up.
I know.
It wasn't until I got older and found out, oh, that's a Joe Dante movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does suck because, God, I think it was a year ago now. Joe Dante I can't remember if it was the Cherry Hill or maybe it was the Baltimore one. He was coming to Monster Mania to sign, and he said he canceled, but it was stated that he was canceled and would reschedule.
Yeah.
And it's been a whole year and he's not on the docket. Unless they add him to Oaks, PA, or maybe back to Cherry Hill, because right now they just have Sting, I believe, and Paige from WWE. But as of right now, he's not seen to be coming back. That is the director I would really, really like to meet.
Yeah.
Now, was this the first time you've seen it?
Yeah.
So you haven't seen it before, never
not that I recall.
Watched it on cable or anything like that?
No, not that I recall. Like I've said before, even when watching stuff on TV, It was very rare that if a movie came on, like I stuck to it. I would just like
Yeah.
flip over to a show. Also, like the thing is when like you're talking about cable, you had like your shows at 4:30, then like your 6 o'clock show, and like also like you're a kid, so you have like homework or you play outside, and you know those are on like Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. Like, so I feel like I was so absorbed in like my religious shows that are like going to come on with a new episode every week. But you get to watch the last episode the 30 minutes prior to that. And I always wanted to watch the previous episode before I watched a new episode of something. So I had too much time. I didn't have enough time to actually like watch movies. The biggest time we watched movies was if we already owned it and we were like on a road trip somewhere and Graham had that like flip up DVD player thing that was like portable. Or if we were like up West Virginia and that was VHSs we already had.
Talking about a game changer, when the portable DVD players came out, those freaking 13 to 15 hour long rides to Orlando became nothing to me.
Yeah, I remember Graham taking me with her to Best Buy and like it felt so like rich. Like and the thing is like
okay, Grayson.
But like no, but like when you got things like that when you were younger, especially if those like that was like a big thing because before you like had to be at home to watch your movies. So that was like
unless
pivotal.
You had one of those Astro vans with a V8 VCR and TV in them, which we didn't.
Graham's van was the van with no windows in the back. And no back window. But yeah, I just remember like thinking like it was just so special, like so not rich, but like so special and so cool that we were like gonna get a portable thing because the thing is she always took me and Sierra on road trips and like you can only do so much like in the back of the car.
Yeah.
When you're a kid or whatever. And we would play like the license plate game or like this or that or whatever, I Spy. But now we could do like our little headphone splitter and we could pick movies. And Graham like went on a buying spree of movies. Graham is a collector. And so she just bought all sorts of movies. So we have like booklets and booklets of like DVDs and stuff.
I mean, like it was, so it's funny to in Gremlins fashion, like Gremlins was a movie that we would take on a road trip. I never really played it a lot. Because I talk, if you want like my history with Gremlins, you can go through the Gremlins episode. Like I was terrified of that movie when I was younger. It wasn't until I didn't see it until I was much later in life. But I've seen Gremlins 2 so many times. But yeah, we would, heck, I remember just like literally going to Walmart and just picking out DVDs and DVDs just for vacation.
Yeah,
like okay, I'm gonna watch Godfather. Get the Godfather DVD. I'm going to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know what I mean? I'm going to watch Jaws. Movies I know I'm going to enjoy that I know will just eat up that time.
Yeah. Now, I will say like on my family's like Blockbuster nights, which were like Fridays or whatever because we lived down the street from a Blockbuster. We were just lucky. That was a lot of like the Mary-Kate and Ashley movies or like when the Rugrats movie came out and like the Orange VHS. And then sometimes it would be like movies like Jaws or like things like that, but not like Gremlins or anything like that I recall.
Yeah, like that was such, it was just so crazy. There's a point where like things were very expensive to the point where they became so cheap. It was like, well, you'd be stupid not to buy it. You're losing money by not buying this, you know?
Yeah.
But back to Gremlins. Okay, like this movie, it was so to say that, okay, to ask the question, let me fix that. To ask the question, if we needed a Gremlin sequel, what would you say the answer to that question is? Do you think we needed a sequel? Personally?
So I don't know if this necessarily, it is technically a sequel because it's a continuation of Gizmo going back to Billy and things like that. But I also feel like it's a remake because it's like, yes, it carries on a story that he's older now. He's with his girlfriend or whatever. But they like really they take so many twists and turns with like the Gremlins and how they evolve and stuff that they almost kind of remake the idea of Gremlins to a point, or I guess they expand on it.
Yes, yes.
I would say it's one of those ones that would have been fine if it was left as is. But this one's so different, it doesn't necessarily make the first one like better, or like it doesn't necessarily knock the first one out of the park, or or knock it out of the game or anything like that, in my opinion.
Well, so that's the funny thing, because so I felt like, to be honest, I didn't feel like we needed a sequel.
Yeah, it was either you could do with it or without it.
Exactly. And that was the same feelings that Joe Dante had, because they were trying to get this ever since the first one came out, which was a sleeper hit. This almost horror movie written by Christopher Columbus that was changed into a heartfelt film with the the work of Steven Spielberg. Just took the world by storm, and it was a hit. And they were like, okay, we see the money coming in. Let's bring in some more dough. Let's do another sequel. And they went to Joe Dante. He turned it down. He just felt like, like I said, I mean, the story, the closed book, the story's done. Okay. I don't want to work on another Gremlins. And also it was very taxing on Joe Dante to make the first one, because it is so kind of different from his style. Like, there's still parts of Dante in it, but there's a lot of things that were studio involvement, and everybody's putting their fingers in the pot, telling you what you can, what you can't do. I mean, no, Steven Spielberg had a lot to play in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And they went on for years trying to get a sequel made. At one point, they were going to have them go to Las Vegas. They even had an idea of making them go to space. But nothing could really capture, like, they just couldn't get anything that was worth making, really.
Yeah.
So years later go by, and they come back to Joe Dante. They're like, listen, we want a Gremlins 2 movie. Okay. What about this? What about we give you complete freedom? Like, no studio involvement, complete control over the film. You get to make the movie you want. You get to make Joe Dante's Gremlins 2, not, Steven Spielberg's Gremlins.
Yeah.
Gremlins 2 or whatever. You get to make Joe Dante's Gremlins 2. And he was like, well, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, especially in the days of Hollywood, without someone putting their fingers in something and meddling something around, and the true vision not really getting to be made. Like, that is like golden ticket. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to run with it. And he got together with Charles Haas. He, which would later do the script for Matinee, which would be Joe Dante's film. I think it was like 92, 93, like his next or so film after this movie. Which is another great movie, which I think a movie you would really enjoy. We really do need to cover. John Goodman's in it. And it's about like a theater owner that's trying to get asses in seats. But it's in a different time era kind of like thing. But so they got Charles Haas to come in to do the script. Columbus couldn't come back because he was working on Home Alone at the time. And, the original one, we had Chris Wallace doing the special effects, which is the creator of Gizmo and all the, and Stripe and all the Gremlins and Mogwais and stuff like that. He was offered the job, but he turned it down to work on Fly 2, which is, I love Fly 2. If it was a Fly 2 personally, I know, this is controversial, but I like Fly 2 more than the first Fly with Jeff Goldblum personally, because it just has a happier story, and I like the happier story. Not to say anyone's better. I'm just saying the one I prefer.
Yeah.
But he went to work on that one. He did great special effects on that film. So they called on to Rick Baker, which originally turned down because he knew that it sucks to work on a film where majority of the credit will go to Chris Wallace because he created the original Gremlins. But that's when Dante was like, well, what about this? What about you get to make your own Gremlins? What about we do things a little bit different? Let's not keep the same molds and do the exact same thing that we did in Gremlins 1. How about each Gremlin looks different? And then you can make whatever Gremlin you want to make. Kind of like basically gave him the reins, like, look, no idea is a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At one point, they got to where they would just meet up and just start shooting ideas back and forth. And Joe Dante would be like, okay, what are you thinking about today? Well, like, what would be a cool idea? And I'm like, well, what about a spider gremlin? Okay, well, what would that look like? And they would just start shooting ideas back and forth, because the fact that they had complete creative freedom, they really took it to their full advantage, which that's really funny because, did you watch a lot of Key and Peele?
To a point.
Did you ever see the Gremlins episode?
I don't recall.
There's a sketch, well, not the Gremlins episode, but the episode where they had the Gremlins 2 sketch spoof on it, where basically they had this like boardroom meeting, and it's like all the writers together, like, all right, we're writing Gremlins 2. What do you got? And the funny, like, the one cast member is Jordan Peele is playing what was his name? Shoot, I can't even remember it. From Mannequin 2, or I forget if it was Mannequin 1, but he was, the actor was, I'll put it down here on the screen, but like the actor was also in, like, I think it was Designing Women or whatever. He comes in while he's like technically just like the studio overseer for creative ideas. So he just was going to like attend the meeting, and where Key is sitting down there, and he's like Joe Dante, and it's so funny because like they don't change his skin color, but he's got Joe Dante's glasses and the hair he had at the time. And like, even wearing like the little sweaters he used to wear and stuff like that. It's hilarious. But like, he basically, interrupts. He's like, all right, here we go. We're making Gremlins 2, everybody. Okay. What's called? So no idea is a bad idea. And they start shooting, ideas off left and right. And it was funny because, which is a very funny sketch, because it seems like how the idea was made for creating all these weird random gremlins. But there was an interview that was done, I think in 2019 or something like that, after the sketch came out. And the interviewer asked Joe Dante, it's like, have you seen the sketch? He was like, yes, I've seen the sketch. He's like, and that's pretty accurate how it was. But if y'all haven't seen that, you got to, I'll show it to you later. It's hilarious about how they're just shooting ideas back and forth, like coming up with Gremlins. At one point where a guy was like, cool, can we put Hulk Hogan in it? And he's like, you mean the Hulkster? And he just goes on this big thing, which Hulk Hogan, depends on which version you watch. Okay. So I have the Blu-ray one here, which is the 2-pack, because unfortunately, like, there's no really cool, like, Gremlins 2 new batch special edition Blu-rays or anything like I don't even think it's has a 4K release at the moment. I could be wrong with that, but I mean, as far as like a really cool, like, a good quality, like studio made one that's like got tons of special features, that really doesn't exist. All the special features in this one are the same special features that were put out on the, like, I think it was 2000 DVD or 2001 DVD or whatever. But depending on which one you watch, so in the VHS version, when it was made for home release, when it comes to the Hulkster scene, it's actually not Hulk Hogan. So they actually make it mimic like the VCR is messing up. And then the Gremlins come in and they make the shadow puppets. And then it acts like the Gremlins are changing the channels on the TV. And then they impose on those channels in those movies. And they use stock footages from old John Wayne movies. And they impose Gremlins into it. If you watch the DVD or the Blu-ray, it does the original theatrical one where it's Hulk Hogan comes in because they're messing with the reel of the movie, and he has to, break the fourth wall and make the Gremlins stop and make the movie go back to normal. I think it's so funny because that scene in itself kind of just self-explains the mood of this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as far as like what you're expecting, like, they start the movie off with like a Looney Tunes opening scene, which is very, very cool because, I mean, Joe Dante was a big fan of Looney Tunes. They actually got Chuck Jones to come out of retirement to animate that intro, which is crazy. And I know you watch Looney Tunes a lot, so it's kind of just, it's so fun to like see stuff like that. And, it is a Warner Brothers film at some points in time because you have the Looney Tunes. And it is fun to see like them spoofing other studio movies and stuff.
I mean, as soon as the movie kicks off, you can tell it's going to be like a goofy movie. Like, truly, like, some of the stuff they do is like, some parts are like, and I mean this in a good way, like, so stupid they're funny.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
Like, that's what I mean by goofy.
Yes.
Like, right off the bat, it's going to be like a silly, goofy movie. Like, and it sticks with that throughout, while also following, like, the character development of like Gizmo, Billy, his girlfriend, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it really does, like, it's the ice, it's like the cherry on the top of everything. Just like that sense of like humor, which I think is one of the things that we talked about in our Twilight Zone segment, is like that Joe Dante pulled that sense of humor and put it into the segment in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, because I will say, like, I almost said Gizmo one. Gremlins, the first Gremlins movie, I feel like there's silly things happen, but it was not as like, I keep using the word goofy because that's the only thing that comes to mind. It wasn't as goofy as the second one.
No, I agree. And I think goofy
It was very
is the
heartfelt.
best word to use. Yeah.
It was the first one was very heartfelt. I'd say probably more heartfelt than this one, but this one was just silly.
Yes. This is not the family movie. Yeah,
I mean, it could be, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm saying usually a family movie like E.T., something that
heartfelt, heartwarming, things like that.
Yeah, stuff that makes you like happy and sad. This one's just silly.
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, because unfortunately, like, I don't know, I looked all up down the internet, and there's not a lot of behind the scenes that was shot while this movie was being made.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. And maybe that is one of the reasons why we don't have like a cool special edition DVD, because there's not a lot of stuff to offer.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they like did like a Gremlins 2 documentary, like, you know, and went back, and because Joe Dante is still with us, and talk to him and stuff like that, and, you know, get his opinion and like see what actually was happening behind the curtains, because there is a little behind the scenes featurette. It's in the special features, but it's a bull crap special scene. Like, it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those stupid studio ones that they used to make for a little insert on TV that was supposed to be silly to get you hyped to see the movie. But it wasn't any true behind the scenes. All it is fake behind the scenes of people talking like the Gremlins are real.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, I really enjoy making this movie, but man, these Gremlins, they're hard to work with. Like, I don't want it. That's stupid. And like that, like when you want to see stuff behind the curtain and get the idea of how something's made, and kind of like see like the process of like something like this being made, it really does suck. Is like, oh, that's what you gave us. Like, they did that a lot with Batman. And I think Batman 2, they did a lot of that kind of dumb stuff like that, that they would play on TV, like, or Entertainment Tonight and crap like that. It really does suck. But, you know, man, I don't know. I really wish we had a little bit more like behind the scenes stuff, because this movie is super crazy, super interesting. It is wild, because, like, no offense, but this movie today would not have gotten made. Yeah. No way in hell this movie today would they would take a sequel and take this big of a leap. Yeah. You know, but that's really, I mean, like I said, there's not a lot behind the scenes with it. Just behind the average stories, like, you know, Joe Dante got full control and stuff like that. You know, I mean, we still get Jerry Goldsmith comes back to do an amazing score like he did in the first one. You know, Phoebe Gates comes back. Zach Gallagher comes back for Billy. Dick Miller comes back for Mr. Fetterman. I forget what his wife's name. But those are the real only main characters from the first one. Howie Mandel comes back to voice Gizmo, which is really good because, you know, he is Gizmo. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all I really got. Is there anything you want to say before we read the back of the box and get into it?
No, we can roll with it. Yesterday it was rural Kingston Falls. Today it's the Big Apple. And lots of wild anarchy comedy because a new batch of mischievous green meanies is on the loose. Original Gremlins collaborators Joe Dante, Michael Fennell, Steven Spielberg, young stars Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates, and cuddly furball Gizmo reunite in a zippy sequel that's infernally funny and better than the original, says the Los Angeles Times. The fun comes in nonstop batches of exuberant special effects, reptilian mischief that balloons into comic catastrophe, and an exclusive gremlinized surprise, a special sequence just for home viewers. We told you, remember the rules, you didn't listen, now you'll have to face up to the hilarious consequences and have a blast doing it.
I like the tagline where it says, we told you, remember the rules, you didn't listen. what? Here they grow again.
Oh, yeah.
Here they grow again. So
Yeah,
here
so
they
here
go
they
again.
go again. Yeah. So the movie opens up like you said with the Looney Tunes skit, and we are heading into pretty much Chinatown.
Yeah, so it opens up with I like the little I like the little title card where it's Gremlins 2, and we see this panning shot over New York City to let you know we're in New York City. That's where the movie's going to be taking place, which apparently was stock footage from Superman 4, Quest for
Mm.
Peace or whatever, which when we're setting this now, so I at one point I had the DVD to I recall, but I popped in the Blu-ray and opening that opening scene. I'm like, God, this looks shitty. I'm like, oh my God, this is the transfer they did. But no, it's just that stock footage is so grainy and crappy.
Yeah.
Once the movie gets started, like, oh no, this movie looks good. It looks
Yeah.
good. Which, to be honest, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's one thing I want to say. Just get it right off. I think this movie still looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like for the special effects that they did and the compositing that they did and stuff like that. Where
Minus some of Gizmo's movements, yes.
to be honest, I still think it looks good though.
He looks good, but the things surrounding him look a little.
Yeah, because like that was the thing is like. That was one thing that drew in Joe Dante. He's like, well, it's been like 5 years since the original. Technology has made vast improvements. So now we can do things. Now we can make him walk. He doesn't have to be a puppet. We don't have to use stop motion or, it's got like, we don't have to do like this cartoon style gremlin walking around. We can do like, like I said, like composite, like put him on the screen, like an overlay or whatever, which like I said, I still think it looks really, really good. But back to the movie. We open up in Chinatown to the same little shop where Gizmo was first found. We see some businessman basically offering the shop owner money.
Mind you, the offer is played on a tube TV. It's a VHS film of someone. Later we find out the business owner that's trying to take over the building space. And he's sending a message through a VHS tape instead of coming himself or like writing a letter. I know it's because it's like a tech company and this, that, and the other, but like, really?
Well, it's because they want you to know he's rich.
Yeah, I get that. And then they're like, you can just keep the TV. Like,
exactly, because that was like a big deal. Like, like this is so funny, but like I saw, it was a funny like meme or whatever, literally just yesterday where it was like when I was little, I thought that I 100-inch TV would cost $1 million. And the funny thing is like the only thing that's gotten cheaper as we've gotten over has been TVs. That's the only thing that's gotten cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, they can still get pretty far up there depending on the size. But in general, yes.
But the idea of like what you used to spend on a 32-inch versus you're spending that same amount of money on a 75-inch. You know what I mean? It's pretty wild and crazy.
Yeah. So ultimately, the shop owner, the old gentleman, turns down the offer. But while he's there, he's like really coughing up a storm. He's obviously very elderly. And the gentlemen leave following the rejection. And essentially, as they're leaving, the one guy, do we know his name?
I forget the shop owner. Is it the shop owner's name?
No. The Foster. One business. Yeah, Foster ends up making a comment of like, when you hear his cough, like, we don't got to worry about him for long.
Or is it Forster? Is it Forster?
I'm not the one to ask.
I can't remember. I'll look it up while she's talking.
I mean, I'm done talking. But he ends up making a comment that the old gentleman won't be lasting long.
Forster.
So, yeah, he's not going to be a problem for long.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because like, this movie's got tons of people that have worked with Joe Dante in the past. The actor that plays Forster, he was just in a couple years ago. Well, actually, it's quite some time ago. But was in The Howling with them and so forth like that. There's, there's so many, like there's the security guard in the movie is in The Burbs with Tom Hanks and stuff like that, which I know that's one that you said you would like to cover.
Yeah.
Which will eventually we get around to doing that one.
No,
I just go ahead.
Yeah. So unfortunately, 6 weeks later, it's our understanding that the shop owner has passed on. So they, take on the opportunity and they turn the building that the shop once was, they trash it, and now it's going to become a part of their business building. However, when they trash it, Gizmo's obviously still in a cage inside because he belonged to the shop owner, and he tries to escape. And this is where you first get like a scene of Gizmo moving, which it's just very funny. He's very stiff when he moves, and like he kind of glides on the ground instead of moving like a creature would, and someone ends up snatching him up.
Which is funny because so like when they were making the when they were doing Gizmo for this one, it was said that he was made, the quality of the Gizmo puppet in this one was less realistic looking. So they sacrificed the realistic look and the hair and stuff on him, but they were able to give him more facial expressions.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't really see a big difference. I think he looks phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, no, he's still very cute.
Yeah, his facial expressions and the animatronics, the puppetry they do on his face.
Yeah, it just makes him even better.
Oh, I think 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think like when I read that, I'm like, I didn't see any dip in quality. I just thought it looked better.
Yeah.
But yes, unfortunately, Gizmo gets snatched up. And now we get introduced to Billy and Kate. They're still together and they're living in New York City. And they also, not only do they live together in New York City, they're also working together in the same office building in New York City, which is the Clamp Center, which is like a multi-use business office for multiple different businesses. They have a TV studio in there. They have a lab in there. They have
some type of like architectural drawing idea type thing, which is what Billy does.
Well, yeah, he works for the Clamp Center in general for new projects. And there's also I don't know what you call like a place where you would sell stocks. I don't know what that like.
Yeah, and then they also do tours of it, which is what Kate does. So tour is a Kate guide. Kate is a tour guide. She's a tour guide, so she walks people around. It looked like specifically like the studio, but also just to show them people around the center in general.
Kind of like an NBC page.
Yeah.
Like if you do a studio walkthrough of the NBC studio in Manhattan, 30 Rock. If you did like a walkthrough of 30 Rock, that's what it would be. She would be like walk you through each and like, okay, here's the set of Saturday Night Live. Here's the set, here's the late night, the night show with Jimmy Kimmel. No, not Jimmy Kimmel.
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, yeah.
And like we said, Billy's doing some type of like project work. However, it's a very like high tech building, like very SpaceX type technology building.
But it's funny, it's got all this new technology.
And it's super janky.
Yes, it's super janky, which is funny because like if you know anything about new technology, 9 times out of 10 when something is first like new and it first comes out, there's always freaking problems with it. Which is funny because like one movie that did that really well was like Looper, which is a sci-fi thriller. But it's funny because like the director was like, I want to make sure that we had this new kind of cool technology, but it's still shitty technology, just like today's time. Not just because it's new and futuristic doesn't mean it's going to work perfectly. And this movie does that super well. And it's kind of funny because it's like there's all these little things that like Joe Dante's thrown in there of like modern times where he's kind of just making fun of like the times of like the 90s of that time and stuff like that. Like that idea of like, like constantly changing things, but it's like, okay, but if it's not broke, why aren't you fixing it? This works. Yeah. Why are you switching things up? It's kind of like just that nod of like always things have, like you can't just leave things be. Everything always has to be finagled in some way.
Yeah.
But it's a very like a concept that goes throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. So as a part of our reintroduction to Billy and Kate, we're filming around the office essentially, and we get introduced to Fred, who is a spinoff of Grandpa Munster.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too because there are some scenes that were cut from the film. A lot of it was Gremlin scenes. Just at one point, like Steven Spielberg was like, "Okay, there's too many Gremlins in this movie. You got to cut some of these scenes." And I mean, I can understand that or whatever, but I don't know if any of these scenes were like things, but when I don't know if there was a scene that was leading up to explain a little bit of this, but like, yes, we see, Billy has a friend, on the studio that is, named Fred, Grandpa Fred. And he's kind of like a, Elvira, like, horror movie shows, TV show host and whatever. But he walks in there with him and he shows him like, hey, Fred, I thought you could use this. And it's like a bat on a string and stuff like that. And he's playing with it. I'm like, is that like a nod to like, oh, maybe he's trying to vent some stuff like his dad, trying to pull something from the original? Because the thing is the only two things from that we draw from the original is the Gremlins in general.
Yeah.
And the Fettermans. That's it.
And Billy and Kate's relationship.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yes. So that's only three things.
And the old gentleman that owns the shop.
Okay.
And the shop.
Well, yeah, he shows up. Okay, whatever. All I'm saying is you would feel like they would kind of like pull more from the original or telling a continuation story, like introducing, like maybe his mom would show up or his dad would show up. None of that really happened in this one.
I'm sure there's a reason why.
Yeah, I'm just saying it is crazy because like this is
because nothing's worse than, I will say, because I don't want to lose track of this thought, nothing's worse than when movies make a sequel and they keep characters but replace the actor that was the character.
Oh, that's worse. That's
so I'd rather just people not show up and it be a break in a continuation of the story than replace characters.
Yeah.
Or replace actors for characters.
Yeah, I mean this story, this story was made specifically. Like they kind of wrote this movie around what they were trying to achieve to do. Like there is a reason why it only takes place in the office building because they wanted to shoot in New York, but they knew it was going to be hella expensive to shoot outside in New York.
Yeah. So
how are you going to have the Gremlins but be like in New York without actually showing them in New York?
Yeah.
And that's how. Okay. Well, that's when Charles Hess was like, okay, I'll only put them in the office building and we'll confine them inside the office building. That's why the movie pretty much just takes place in the office building.
Yeah. So along with Grandpa Munster, we find out that Gizmo is now part of the Splice of Life department, where the main doctor, played by Christopher Lee, is essentially splicing genes and cloning things and seeing what he can do. So two of his scientists, which is one of the person that has been cloned, shows off Gizmo and kind of like shows what Gizmo is and what he can do to prove that he's worth splicing and cloning and things like that. Yeah,
it's a creature they've never seen before, and that's like they're trying to see like what's its genetic traits and stuff like that, because this is just like really this is just a mad scientist experimental lab. I mean, they're cloning animals. They're coming up with formulas to change or alter DNA. So it's pretty, I mean, he's even like, he was, what was it? Was he, he was running rabies. He ordered a rabies, but ended up getting, no, was it Ebola or something like that?
No, I don't know.
It was some kind of other disease. And he was like, oh, just rabies. I already have rabies. But yeah, they end up playing Fats Domino's song. I think "Are You Ready" or whatever it's called. And he starts dancing or whatever. Which like I said, this is one of those scenes where like I still think this looks good. Like I know it's you can tell he's not really standing on the table, but as far as like what it looks for the time, I think it looks pretty damn great.
Yeah.
And he tries to run off the table, but he ends up getting caught by Christopher Lee. And it's funny because apparently they wanted to have Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself in that little scene or whatever, which I think that would be a better song because we are coming out of the 80s into the 90s. I think that would make it more relevant. But anyway, it's still a cool little scene.
Yeah. So next we are at Billy's desk, and I believe it's like a janitorial person is coming by, and he is whistling the song that Gizmo frequently hums or whistles, and he recognizes the song and asks him where he heard it from.
He's the delivery boy. He's the guy from the mail office.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know. I heard it in the lab somewhere. He's
like, isn't that a Sting? He's like, no, that's not Sting. He's like, oh yeah, I heard it in the lab. I don't know, just heard it, so I just thought it was.
Yeah, isn't it catchy or something? And then so now Billy is realizing that Gizmo's in the building somewhere, or it's very likely that Gizmo's in the building somewhere.
Yeah, and before this scene, we did get a little bit we did get to see Billy drawing at his desk, that's a nice little throwback because we got to see the really good drawings that Billy kind of wanted to be a cartoonist from the original. He made the really cool dragon drawing at the bar, and everyone was like, you really can be something one day, Billy. And now he's getting to do what he wants to do. Yes, it's not the full degree of what he exactly wants to do, but he's still getting to make a living at drawing, which is really, really cool to see that, this is 5 or 6 years later. So it is nice to say, you remember that dream you had? You're doing it, not to the degree you want to do it, but hey,
it's a stepping stone.
Yeah. And, but yeah, so he hears that going off from the delivery boy or whatever. So he goes to investigate, and he ends up finding Gizmo.
But before that, he finds some ginormous spider thing or whatever.
And he plays that freaking cicada noise.
Yeah.
God, I hate that. It's not a cicada noise, but it's a specific.
I think it's a type of beetle or something.
All I know is I heard that all the time living in the South, and I can't stand. I lived in 360-degree woods. I just had to open my door and I could hear that. It was literally I live in the middle of the woods. And for the longest time, it was on a dirt road. But then it became gravel. So, kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Kind of like rich.
Let's just say I got a little bit of money.
Yeah. We say this because our little guy is going through a stage of being very money driven, to say the least. So now everything is you got to be rich to do X, Y, and Z. So that's why it's comical when we think about things like that now. But so he finds Gizmo, and he's essentially just going to steal Gizmo from the lab and just take him with him. Yeah,
he takes him back to his go ahead.
Sorry, because ultimately he knows what they're doing there. And he has a connection with Gizmo. Gizmo's not a science experiment. And also that was something that Gizmo's original owner, the owner of the antique shop, was very keen on as well. The treatment of Gizmo and stuff.
Exactly. He wanted to make sure that Gizmo was taken care of and safe.
Yeah.
But it does kind of suck because it just kind of seems like he kept him in a cage.
Yeah, the shop owner. Yeah.
It's kind of I don't, and it could have been maybe out of your protection so nothing happens to you and you don't multiply.
Yeah.
You can just, there can only be one Gizmo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I digress, but we get back to the part where he brings him back to his cubicle. But now all of a sudden everyone's on their P's and Q's because Mr. Clamp has showed up.
Yeah.
Which the actor that actually played Mr. Clamp, so the original actor that played him, not the original, he was always the actor that played, but the original part was written for a villain. Mr. Clamp is actually supposed to be a villain, but the actor who played Mr. Clamp, the way he chose to be that character, he's not really a villain.
Yeah.
He's actually kind of a nice character.
He just seems like he's a rich business owner that's kind of all over the place and, definitely has some concerning thought processes, but isn't a bad guy.
Exactly.
Technically.
Exactly. The bad people are the people that work underneath him.
Which, he's condoning that. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So he shows up and he's like, I have not usually been around here, but I will be showing up a lot lately because a lot of people are talking have you ever met him? No, I've only seen him on the TV.
Yeah.
And then so everyone's shitting their britches that he's showing up. And he makes his way to Billy's cubicle because he sees his drawing board.
Yeah, and he compliments it and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's over ecstatic, and he's to the point where he calls him Bill and stuff like that. He really is showing him respect. He's like, "This is exactly what I need, Bill. You're exactly what I've been looking for." Which is funny because Marla, the redheaded that's playing his boss, which she's kind of a turd.
Yeah, and she's majorly seeking validation from Mr. Clamp, obviously. Yes. And she ends up kind of forcing / asking Billy out for dinner to talk about his work at the center.
Yeah, because that conversation between him and Mr. Clamp went so well. She's like, okay, well, this is my ticket to move up. If you do well and I'm over you, that means I can do well.
Yeah.
So this is her idea to like trying to be, be more on the what's I'm looking for, be on the radar in Mr. Clamp's eyes as far as like future advancements and stuff like that.
Yeah. However, she's also like, I guess, I mean, she's obviously fancying Billy simply for probably that fact, but Billy just seems like oblivious to it until it gets to dinner, and then he realizes once she kisses him that he's in the wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because she's like straight up coming on to him hard, and he's just like, oh, I don't know what you're doing here. Like he's not even giving it he's not even paying any attention to it. But it is kind of funny because we get this little scene where like he puts Gizmo up in his desk, and then he ends up actually shutting his hand, chanting his hand in the desk. If you actually look, his hand like starts to throb.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And he has this business dinner that he is taking very serious because it has to do about the company and his job. So he asked Kate, can you pick up Gizmo? I found Gizmo. He's at my desk. Can you pick him up?
Yeah, he goes to Kate's because they had
apartment.
They had like some kind of like not reservation, but like they had plans after
work.
Yeah, and stuff like that. He's like, I can't go. I got a business meeting, which he is right to his eye. I think Billy's just being a little dumb here. Like in his eyes, he goes, no, it is a business meeting. I don't think she's coming on to me. I think he's just being a little stupid.
Yeah.
Not
just oblivious.
Oblivious. There you go. Yeah. He's just being oblivious to it. So he ends up canceling on there. He goes, but I do need to let you know one thing. He's like, what? She's like, Gizmo's back. She's like, that furry little thing. And so she's not happy about this at all. Like she's like kind of like low key losing her mind. It's like, oh my God, they're going to be crawling everywhere. No. Just remember the rules. Just remember the rules. What's called bright lights will kill them. What's called don't feed them after midnight and don't get them wet.
Yeah, so Kate reluctantly, goes to pick up Gizmo. However, that takes a turn.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's funny. So when Kate goes to pick up Gizmo, throughout the movie, there's like little parts of that are the things that are playing over the loudspeakers. Like this is one of those movies where you can't stop paying attention for 1 second or you're going to miss something funny. But it's like they're talking about the studio is like, and tonight, don't forget to watch Casablanca, this time in full color, what's called, and with a happier ending. And it's kind of funny because like, this was that time where like people were like, oh, don't everything needs to be in color. And like, what's called, we need to start changing things that are like changing endings to movies and stuff. It's kind of funny where like, it's where that like, that almost like that, not say peer review, but it's like one of that's like where companies and studio take the opinion of the average American or whatever to judge at how they show or write something, where it's like the people have the decision instead of the artists themselves have the decision on how to write something. It's kind of like making that fun of like that, throwing that little nod of like, there's always something that's going to like step in to prevent you from doing what you want to do because someone else has something to say. Yeah.
So ultimately, unfortunately, why this is happening, Gizmo ends up getting wet.
Yeah, so we get John Aston as the janitor. It's a very funny scene where he comes in, Gomez Adams himself, and he ends up playing with the water fountain that's not working correctly, and it starts spewing out water. And Gizmo's trying his best to avoid it, but unfortunately, he ends up getting wet. And then he just starts shooting out gremlins left and right.
Yeah. And in return, they turn around and lock Gizmo into, I think it's like the air duct or something.
Yeah, it's the air duct. Yeah.
And so Kate, not realizing that she's not getting Gizmo out of the desk, grabs a gremlin out of the desk to take back home.
And all, like I said, from
and
the beginning.
it's literally the goofiest gremlin on the planet.
Yeah, that was one part in the Key and Peele skip. He's like, well, why don't we make a goofy gremlin? He's like, you mean a gremlin that's so damn goofy that makes you angry every time you look at it because you don't understand why? Yes, we're putting it in the movie.
No, he doesn't make me mad, but it's just so like, it's off the wall.
Well, like I said earlier, this is the scene. This is when you find out like, oh, every gremlin looks different. The original, it was like, oh, okay, that one has a mohawk. Stripe has a mohawk. That's why he looks different.
Yeah.
No, every gremlin looks different in this movie.
Yeah, they all have their own characteristics, their own everything.
There's a goofy one. There's there's the dumb looking one.
Yeah, there's
the,
two, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the goofy, crazy, like Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
I'll call
crazy
it the Looney
looking
Tune
eyes
ones.
that
Yeah.
are like rolling everywhere, things like that.
Yeah.
And over the speaker while this is happening, what song is it that you get again? Or what was it? There was something came. No, they took over the speaker.
No, over the speaker when there's this is another funny speaker scene where over the speaker is like in parking garage A, license plate 41256. Can you please move your car? It is old and dirty.
Oh, that was a real worker there. For some reason, I thought one of the gremlins took over the speaker.
No. That was kind of one of those things where like that was one of those things where like this office, we've seen little bits and pieces throughout the movie where this office building is so controlling of their employees. It would be
that they care about things like that.
So much like they at the one point at Billy's desk, he's got a drawing of Kingston Fall where he's from, and Forster just tears it down. He's like, we have spent $500,000 or $1 billion on art. He's like, we don't need this. We don't need to turn this place into a flea market.
Yeah, so Billy comes home, however, and during his date, his boss ends up kissing him. So he comes home with the giant lipstick mark, and power to Kate, because she just says nothing. I mean, she makes a face, she acknowledges it, but she says nothing. I don't get how you would just sit in silence with something so glaringly obvious.
It's also funny too, like when Marla takes him out to dinner, she's like, I got this reservation for this really nice place. It's Canadian. And it's like, he's like, they skin the fish right on in front of you, like on the table. It's like, why the hell would you want that?
Yeah. Sometimes people do crazy things to be extra fancy.
It's funny because like these kind of jokes are they're like the Looney Tunes jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like me growing up watching Tiny Toons, this is the kind of crap that they would put on Tiny Toons. Like these kind of like little like jokes that are like, they're funny, but like, I don't know what, observational comedy or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So Billy and Kate, although Kate's not addressing the elephant in the room, realized that she did not bring Gizmo home.
Well, first off, she should have known that's not Gizmo.
Yeah,
it looks nothing like him.
It looks nothing like him. And two, it's going crazy in the kitchen. So clearly that's not Gizmo.
It's destroying their apartment. This little tiny apartment in Manhattan.
Yeah. So Billy immediately is like, that's not Gizmo. Like, he needs to go back. We need to go back and find Gizmo. We have to do something. So they are, their kitchen's wrecked. They are trying to rush out the door. And who else but, what is their name?
The Futtermans.
Yeah, the Futtermans show up. And
they did not die. They did not die after being ran over by a Kentucky harvester.
Yeah. And they mentioned that so they kind of bust in the door. They're immediately like taking pictures and stuff to show Billy's parents back home. And Mrs. Fetterman brings up the fact that Mr. Fetterman is like, he's doing better with his anxiety, I guess, because the whole first like Gremlins attack like sent him to another planet with his anxiety. However, he starts to hear something that sounds just like a gremlin.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Fetterman's like, I hear it too. He's like, no crap, you hear it too. Obviously, that's because it's really happening.
Yeah.
So they end up, Billy and Kate end up saying their apologies and just rushing them out the door, saying tonight's not a good night. They're fumigating and there's construction.
Yes.
Because they both give different excuses at the same time. However, they say their apologies and they shoo them off and take back off to the center to find Gizmo and see what's going on with all these gremlins.
Yeah, so Billy and Kate head back to the clamp center, and Billy's main course of action right now is, okay, I've known they multiplied. Let's prevent this from happening again. Okay, I'm going to go to the clamp center. I'm going to turn off the water. Okay, so I know they can't get wet, and we can conceal this and make sure the amount of gremlins we have are the only amount of gremlins we have to take care of. Okay, he goes straight to the boiler room or whatever, where the water system is. Once again, early in this movie, we saw how locked down this building is and how they have surveillance everywhere, they find out someone is trying to access the water main.
Yeah.
And then we get a security guard that comes in, which is the gentleman earlier I told you about that was from the Burbs. He was also in Blank Check as the really cool limo driver. He, he's like, listen here, like, he's like, he pulls his gun out. He's like, you're coming with me or whatever. He has the bag with the gremlin in it. He's like, what's in that bag? He's like, no, don't open the bag. He goes, hey, you don't tell me what to do. All right. I tell you what to do. Opens the bag. The gremlin jumps out, bites him on the nose or whatever. And he's sitting there, he's like, and he takes off. He goes, oh, no, we got to go catch him. We got to make sure he doesn't eat anything. Well, he just took a bite out of my nose.
Yeah. So Billy ends up getting arrested, which soils that plan because now he's unable to turn off the water. And now the Mogwais are like turning full gremlin. Like they are just on their gremlin shit.
They're wreaking havoc all throughout the business office. They get into this ice cream shop. They start eating ice cream. Which makes a lot of people concerned because they think they're rats.
Yeah. So pure chaos. But however, Kate goes and picks Billy up from jail essentially because he was arrested because he was where he was not supposed to be.
Yeah. To go back a little bit, the reason why Billy knows that they need to work on this fast because when he shows up, he sees the interactions of them doing that at the ice cream shop. And he's like, and he looks up at the clock and it's past midnight. He goes, okay, we already know they're eating because that's what's going on over here. We got to take care of this. So at least we can get rid of the
control the situation.
Exactly. So yes, he gets arrested. Kate goes back to pick him up and they head right back to the clamp center. Once he gets back to the clamp center, he tries to warn Forster about all this stuff. He lets them know, it's like, hey, they got these little, things that are running around the office, but they're called gremlins. There's a bunch of issues, what's going on with. We got to make sure that we lock this place down. He's like, you were just arrested here yesterday and you came back to the scene of the crime. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, and the people around are like making fun of him. I think that's the scene, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like, what's called is like
gremlins. Yeah, whatever. They mock him.
Yeah, they start mocking him. He starts telling the rules, like you can't get them wet, they can't eat mass for midnight. Later in the movie, there's a funny scene where they're like really like messing with him. You're like, well, what if he took a bite of a sandwich and there was a sesame seed in his teeth and it was after midnight, but he took a bite of the sandwich before midnight. Does he really turn into a gremlin? Or if he's on a plane and he jumps a time zone and he eats while he's jumping that time zone, does he still turn into a gremlin and stuff like that? Which is kind of funny because these are kind of like questions that if you really want to think about the rules, like I had these questions when I
never did.
I don't know what I was thinking. Those are little things that you think about. Like, okay, well, how does that eating after midnight work? Really? Like, what if like I said, like what if something stuck in his tooth or stuff like that? So it's kind of funny for them. It's this movie where they're making fun of themselves. They're poking at the flaws of the original, but in a fun way.
Yeah, not insulting the original.
Exactly.
So now the Gremlins have like officially started to take over the center more than ever. They, they bomb the Microwave with Marge cooking show. She is making bourbon black bean bologna wraps.
It looks disgusting.
Or whatever. And they end up crashing in. They're putting pots in the microwave, turning the microwave on, throwing things around. Kate ends up showing up. Marge takes off. Also, I'm pretty sure she's drunk. She runs off the show because she's drinking the bourbon while making the bourbon food.
The cherry or whatever it is. Yeah. Sherry or whatever you call it.
Yeah, sherry. Which I'm pretty sure is just bourbon. It's a type of bourbon. I might be wrong though, but so she ends up rushing off the show because she's like, what the heck is happening? Then they also go after Mr. Clamp. Like they are just being, the true terrorizing gremlins.
Well, the problem here is with the Microwave with Marge segment, they end up blowing up the microwave, which starts a fire, which causes the sprinklers to go off, which causes them to heavily mutate.
Yeah.
Not mutate, but multiply. Yeah, and then we cut over to one has made his way to Mr. Clamp's office where they're terrorizing his receptionist.
Yeah.
And we get this. I like the scene where Mr. Clamp comes out and they end up biting Mr. Clamp and he ends up fighting with it and wrestling into the shredder. And it's just, I know it's probably just Jello with shit in it, but it looks so nasty with like how the mutilated gremlin comes out on the shredder.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like, what's that water?
The water beads.
What's that? The Jello's dessert? Was it water salad or something like? I don't know. It always looked like pond water to me. I think it's a Southern dish. My Aunt Betty always made it, and I never ate any of it. My dad ate it. Basically, she was just making it for him. I can't remember what it's called, but it's if I'll find a picture and I'll put it here, and you can see what it is. It's
yeah. So Billy shows up and tells Mr. Clamp all about the gremlins, what they're going to do, that they need to try to wrangle them in, that like they need to think of a game plan because they're taking over. He gives them like a very fast and full-blown like rundown on the gremlins.
Yeah. Then after this, we cut to, this is the part where this movie has so many meta moments in it. It is just, like I said, that was the one cool thing. That was that fun thing. Like that's that Looney Tunes thing. Looney Tunes is super meta, looking at the camera, talking to the viewers and stuff like that. So we get this scene where Leonard Maltin's movie police and where he's reviewing the first Gremlins movie, but then the Gremlins attack him. Like, so like in this universe, there's a Gremlins movie that the Gremlins movie itself does exist. But so the Gremlins end up attacking him. Then they make their way to the worst place they can make their way to, and they make their way to the Splice of Life lab, which has all the different mutated gene experiments, and the Gremlins just start drinking them left and right.
Oh yeah, so you get like a vegetable gremlin, a brain gremlin. I'm assuming that's where the spider gremlin that we'll find shortly came from. You also get an ode to Batman. You get the Batman symbol.
You get the Batman gremlin. The brain gremlin ends up getting a gene splice sunblock, not a sun, like a gene sunblock, whatever serum, and ends up injecting it into the Bat Gremlin, which my favorite gremlin is the Bat Gremlin's so freaking sick looking. Oh my God, it looks so freaking cool. But the Bat Gremlin ends up flying out, busting through the wall, and it leaves the imprint of the Batman symbol, which I remember the first time watching this movie, I like when I saw that scene, I'm like, oh, this movie's batshit crazy.
Yeah, so they continue to wreak havoc. They go into the investment center. One finds Mr. Fetterman outside, which is like Mr. Fetterman's ultimate fear, because obviously he needed to have some sort of recovery from the first gremlin attack. Yeah. So this is like a true nightmare for Mr. Fetterman. And so now he also knows like what the heck is happening. And they end up, I think it was like, then you get Logan's favorite scene, which I'll let you talk about because it has your cameo.
Oh, yeah. Well, before that, though, like Mr. Fetterman ends up wrestling with the gremlin and ends up dragging it to a concrete mason or whatever.
Yeah.
And ends up throwing it up in... Which I say this, I keep on bringing it up, but that's in the Key and Peele sketch too, where they break it like, you mean a Bat Gremlin that goes outside due to sunblock and then ends up getting covered in concrete and then flies on top of a building and becomes a gargoyle? Yes, it's in the movie. But yeah, that's exactly what happens, which is a really cool scene. But yeah. They've even made their way to the movie theater itself, which these are these moments where, like I brought this up during the Twilight Zone episode, where this is just something that would be so fun to watch for the first time in a theater when you've got things like this, where, you know, you would be sitting watching the film and then all of a sudden the film realm starts to mess up and the gremlins are attacking the film and stuff like that. I just think that is so cool. So they end up tearing up the movie that we're watching. And then you see these people, mom and son, leave the theater super pissed off, like this is ridiculous. I mean, I know it's not as good as the first one, but you gotta be kidding me here. And the guy's like, ma'am, we don't write the movies, we just show them. And it's a funny scene where like they start to talk about what they can hear from the gremlins because the projection just comes down. He's like, I can't take this anymore. I can't work under these conditions. I got these things attacking me and all they want to watch is Snow White, which is funny because that's a throwback to the first one because they went to the theater in the first one and they all enjoyed, they all watched Snow White, which they end up, blowing up the theater. So they end up putting on an old naked volleyball movie. And then the usher ends up going into the movie. So technically it's a theater that is showing Gremlins. And they end up, obviously it's Hulk Hogan. That's why I brought my LJN, one of my LJN Hulk Hogan's, put him on the table because it makes sense because he's in the movie. But they end up tapping him on the shoulder. They're like, oh, we need your help. Can you add some assistance? Oh, yeah, sure. He is. Yeah, we got Gremlins taking over the movie. He's like, Gremlins? And then he gets this. It's so stupid and ridiculous. But that's why it's so freaking good. Classic Hulk Hogan at his peak, WWF, Hulkster, Hulkamania, shirt ripping. I mean, it is.
We get it.
This scene is so... I love this scene so much.
I know. That's why I was like, you got this.
I know, but it's like, it's crazy. Like when you get to certain things and I talk about certain scenes, all I am is just gushing. I'm just like, I love this scene. I don't really have a lot to say about it more than I love it, but like.
Yeah, that's okay too.
Yeah, so Hulk Hogan comes on screen and he threatens the Gremlins to turn back on the movie or or they're going to feel his wrath. And then he looks at the camera and he's like, sorry about that, folks. Oh my God. It's so ridiculous. And that's another thing. It sucks because I wish I saw this when I was younger because I would, like 5-year-old me probably would have been scared of this movie, but would also love the fact that Hulk Hogan's in it.
Yeah. So we get back to the center and, we're already there, but Grandpa Fred is now for the first time going to get to do the news, not just his skit. And he gets to do the news on what's happening at the center.
Yeah.
So he is ecstatic about getting to air this chaos, essentially.
Well, that was his dream job.
Yes. However, the Gremlins have other plans.
Yeah, it's funny because I like this scene too because that's another thing. It's like this movie is full of set it up, knock it out of the park. Set it up, knock it out of the park. Okay. Oh, he really wants to become a newscaster. That's all his dream. He didn't want to do this horror TV show. And he's like, and it sucks because, I really want to show the classics and stuff like that, but I can't because all they care about is color TV. And so I can only show color horror movies. I can't show the classics, and the black and white Universal films or whatever. But so, yeah, we get to end up seeing earlier in the film, there was a tourist that was videotaping everything. And he sees that people are reporting outside what's going on in the building from the TVs, but no one knows what's going on in the building. He's like, I'm a key eyewitness of what's going on. I can provide this to the people. So he ends up seeing the guy walk by in the hallway with the camera. He's like, can you record this? He's like, do you have a camera? He's like, sir, I am a camera. And so he ends up bringing those. All right. Like, you follow me. So he ends up reporting what's going on in the building, which makes people just lose their minds outside because it's this big deal that Clamp Center is there. It's at the point where this is really bad publicity for the center and stuff like that. And it's kind of like the thing was like this Mr. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it'd be like, that it's like that shit that was going on with like Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. You got this giant person, then all of a sudden shit goes down and makes people like really want to look at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So next, Billy now has a game plan. So he goes to Mr. Clamp and he tells him he needs his help. Here's his plan. He knows that the sunlight will kill them and they need to figure out something quickly. However, they need to lure them somewhere where they can blast all of them at once with the sunlight. So they are going to get a drop screen to make it look like it's dark outside, because then the gremlins are going to prepare to break out.
And they're also going to change the clocks.
Yes, they're going to change the clocks. They're going to do a drop screen in front of the building to block the sunlight, fool the gremlins to come to the lobby, and then as soon as they've all reached the lobby, they're going to drop the screen and essentially just blast them with the sun through the opening. And Mr. Clamp is all for it, especially because he gets to use his escape tunnel.
Yeah, and it's funny too because, like I said, Mr. Clamp was written as a villain, but in these scenes, he's not being villain. He's
just odd. Like, why do you have an escape tunnel?
Well, yeah, I mean, but also like, but it makes sense though. You know, like it makes sense.
I forget the exact comments, but he also makes some other comments that's like, were you about to make some sketchy decisions?
No. It makes sense because think about it, like he is a very wealthy man.
Not just the escape tunnel, but he makes some other, like I said, comments where I'm like, you're a little sketchy.
But yeah, so he ends up getting out of the getting out to the street level, to the escape tunnel, to let the police know what they need to do to fix everything. Meanwhile, Dick Miller, Mr. Fetterman, finds the tunnel, gets in it to get back into the building.
Yeah, because he knows Billy's in there.
Yes, and he knows what's going on because of what's being aired from Grandpa Fred. So he makes his way into the building, which, what are you about to say?
I was going to move on to Gizmo, but go ahead.
Yeah, then we get to the point where after he gets into the building, we see Billy walk off to do this, start the process inside the plan, and he ends get knocked in the head by the gremlins and taken away. But yeah, you can go.
And while that's happening, Gizmo is off, essentially, I guess, hiding or being. I don't think he's kept.
He's been tortured basically.
Oh yeah. And he is now prepping like Rambo.
Yeah, well, so he's throughout this whole film, there's not a lot of Gizmo in this movie. Which, to be honest, if you think about it, there wasn't a lot of Gizmo in the first one, so it does make sense. But so this whole time, the certain gremlins have captured him, tied him up, and they've just been torturing him. All this whole time this movie has been playing while they've been wreaking havoc. He's been nothing but tortured by them. And finally, he ends up breaking out, and he has basically had enough. And we get this training montage where it's this kind of cool thing, like you said, like the Rambo training montage, which it was funny because we see it earlier in the film where Rambo was on the TV and he's like, Rambo, which was funny because they actually asked Sylvester Stallone for his approval. Like, can we put this in the film?
Yeah.
And he gave it and stuff like that because they use a lot of like the Rambo references in the film to the point where like, even like this is my little Rambo head on my ultimate gizmo from NECA. Which is funny because when I think about Gremlins, the main thing that pops into my head is, when I think about Gizmo, is Rambo Gizmo. I don't know if you remember, but like at one point in time, you might, because I know you watched a lot of VHS tapes and stuff like that, but like there was points where you bought a VHS tape, whether it be NGM Studios. Like I think my NGM Studios version of The Thief, the Michael Mann film, when you pop that in the VHS player, there's trailers, but all it is a highlight reel of all the MGM Studio movies that were being put on VHS for the time. And there was always these studios that made these highlight reels, and they would always throw them into your VHS tape. Like even though Alien is the most iconic movie of Alien, the Alien franchise. When I think Aliens, I think Alien 3 with Sigourney Weaver and the alien being right on her face. Like that's what I think. When I think of Aliens, that's the image that immediately comes in mind. And that didn't happen until the third one. When I think Gremlins, I don't think like the first thing that pops in my head is Rambo Gizmo with the bow and arrow, with the whiteout. That's what pops into my mind. And it's kind of funny because that's not the iconic one, but it's funny with the way the things that like, little things that you see when you're younger, and that will forever be the image or what you imagine when you think of something or whatever. But yeah, so we then see Grandpa Flick. He sits down with the brain.
Grandpa Fred.
Grandpa
is now with the brain gremlin, and he is interviewing him.
Yes.
And they seem like they're having a very intellectual, at the start, intellectual conversation, because brain gremlin has, knowledge, I guess, or like a human brain.
Which is played by Tony Randall.
Yeah.
Which is, like Odd Couple or whatever, a famous, very well-spoken actor from back in the day.
But the interview is interrupted because, once again, the gremlins are just pure chaos at this point.
Yeah. We had one point where like he basically asked him like, what are you trying to achieve out there? She's like, oh, I just want to live. I just want to be civilized. We just want to live in a society, be civilized.
As they're wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
Around him.
Literally, he goes, you see this fellow over here? And he pulls out a gun. The gremlin is acting crazy. He pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head. He goes, now, was that civilized? I don't think so, but that's what we're trying to do. It's like, what the hell? Yeah.
The polar opposite of civilized. Billy wakes up after being knocked out and is now in a dentist chair. I guess they have I guess in the lab or whatever, they have these medical chairs.
Well, no, it could be like, it could be the dental office, because there's tons of offices all throughout.
Yeah, it's a business complex almost / center.
That's what I was trying to say, business complex. But yeah, it's kind of like, they were taking ideal from like the World Trade Center to put all these different businesses and stuff like that in there. But yes, he wakes up and the gremlin is going to grind on his teeth. And it's funny because he keeps on like, is it safe? Is it safe? And it's because that's a reference to Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman. Great horror thriller or whatever. Great movie. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. But just kind of one thing is like, I like rewatching this film as I've gotten older, because some of the jokes now I understand and stuff like that.
Yeah, are more relatable.
Yeah.
So like we said before, Mr. Futterman has broken in, and he ends up saving Billy. And while that is happening, Kate, despite this boss sucking, goes and realizes that Billy's boss is about to be attacked by the spider gremlin. She's stuck in its web, and Kate comes up and saves her. But Logan's worst thing is the spider and its noise as it's coming around the corner.
And it's
clicking.
Huge too.
Yes, it is very
humongous. It's a humongous gremlin, which, if I can remember correctly, they believe they have a NECA spider gremlin. I need to get that one. But yeah, it's huge, and you hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, he comes in, and then this is the point. Like I was talking about earlier, we get all of a sudden out of the ductwork comes Rambo Gizmo, and he ends up basically blowing him up with a multi-cocktail bow and arrow made out of whiteout. I guess whiteout's flammable. I don't know.
Maybe.
But it's funny because he ends up blowing it up and stuff like that. And at this time, that's when Mr. Futterman and Billy show up, and they end up grabbing Gizmo, and they're like, Gizmo, where you been? And they're like, is that even Gizmo? And they're like, I don't know. I guess they pushed him too far.
So at this point, that's the whole gimmick. But at this point, they're considering giving up because they have no idea how they're even going to make this happen at this point. Like, the pure chaos these gremlins have brought on is just like over the top.
Yeah, and that's when Mr. Futterman comes out and goes, no, we can't give up. Did Washington give up? Did Lincoln give up? And that's when Kate sits there and goes, oh, don't talk about Lincoln to me. Well, I never told you this, but there was an incident one time during Lincoln's birthday. I had something horrible happen to me. I remember that day. My mom made me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and she used to cut the crust off, and I really like the jelly. And
that's you telling the story.
I'm sorry. I tell a story. I tell a story like my grandmother tells.
I love you to death, but your stories have 10 stories in the one story.
My story, when I tell stories, I hate it, but like I don't hate it, but like I do hate it a little bit. Well, it's like the freaking MCU timeline. It just splinters off. And one story turns into 3 different stories.
Yeah, and we all do it to a point. I definitely will be talking about something and then go on a tangent on something else, but I always come back to the story. You usually don't come back to the original story you're attempting to tell.
I lose sometimes, even doing this episode. Earlier this episode, I don't know if I edited it well, but at one point in this episode, I was talking about something and I completely forgot why I was talking about it, and I couldn't bring it back to the point. But it's funny because this is when Billy he's starts tapping on her shoulder. He's like, Kate, we really don't have time for this right now.
Yeah,
we need to go, because it's making fun of the whole dad story from the first one.
Yeah. So now all the gremlins are heading to the lobby. So the plan seems like it's working its way out. However, outside, the clouds have other plans. So it is so cloudy out that the sun is not going to be strong enough to blast through the windows and take them all out, unfortunately. So that plan is now soiled.
Yeah. So they end up getting the idea. The point is they want to basically keep them still for a certain period of time. And it's funny because this is we see all the different gremlins at this point. I didn't bring it up, but we get Greta Gremlin, which is my favorite gremlin. I'm not gonna lie. For a long time she was just called the girl gremlin. Eventually, over time, she was labeled as Greta Gremlin, or Gremlina. At one point, I think there was trading cards. I think she was called Gremlina, whatever. But we get, I just love her because she's if you watch it, she's the only good gremlin.
Yeah.
She doesn't really do anything bad. She's in love with Forrester.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get all these cool gremlins. We get the freaking Fan of the Opera gremlin. But yeah, we're going to wreak havoc. And Billy gets this idea. He's like, okay, well, I need them to stay where they're at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hose them down with water. And that's when Mr. Fiber runs, you sure you want to do that, Billy? He's like, yeah, I got an idea. I'm holding down with water. And he's like, Kate, can you redirect any call in the building to that phone? He's like, yeah, of course. Earlier in the film, there was electric gremlin, which ended up killing, I don't know if it killed Christopher Lee or not. But no, it didn't kill Christopher Lee, but we thought it killed Christopher Lee, but then we see him later running. But he ended up trapped into Mr. Forster's phone the first time Billy went to go tell him about what's going on. And he's been on hold this entire time. So what they're going to do is they're going to soak everybody with water, and then they're going to release the electricity gremlin onto them to electrocute them all and to melt them.
Yeah. So the plan goes exactly as intended, and all the gremlins melt. And at that time, Mr. Clamp just ends up breaking in with the SWAT team. However, Billy, Mr. Futterman, and Kate and the boss that really does nothing, Marla, have fixed the issue. However, there is one gremlin left.
Yeah, and that is Greta. She has captured Forrester upstairs in the bathroom, and he calls down. He calls down to Mr. Clamp, and he's like, "Forrester, where are you?" He's like, "I'm on the whatever." He goes, "Well, can you get me down?" He's like, "Well, I can't do that right now because all the elevators are on not operational right now. But I will once I get them operational." And it's funny because he's like, you need to relax or whatever. And we kind out, and he's got just kiss marks all over his face. Yeah, I don't know, but it's so funny. I don't know what it is about that gremlin. I'm not gonna lie, it's funny how they sculpt her. She's got these big, humongous, she looks like some of the ladies walking around today with all the plastic surgery and stuff like that, and lip filler. She's got these big lips and stuff like that. She's got a soft woman's voice. She's got the pretty green hair.
Mark, the Jessica Rabbit dress. But yeah, so that is where the movie ends pretty much.
Yeah, we get a happy ending with Billy to where he ends up seeing Mr. Clamp sees the Kingston Fall picture he drew, and he's like, "That's exactly what I've been trying to do. I want to build a place like that." And he even says Clamp Falls, where life stops and where life slows down to a crawl or whatever. And then he's like, then he sees Gizmo for the first time. He goes, "Oh, they look like this? I didn't know that." He's like, "Yeah, it's Gizmo." He's like, he's like, "Have you ever thought about merchandising? I see suction cups on windows and all this kind of stuff," which is funny because like that is exactly what happened with the first Gremlins.
Yeah.
It just exploded into merchandising, like stuffed animals, little rubber LJN figures and stuff like that. And, trading cards and, it's just pajamas. It was, I don't know. It just was, it blew up. It was so crazy.
Sensationalized.
Yes. How sensationalized it was.
Yeah. So I guess I'll let you answer first. So is the new batch the best batch? Is it better than the first?
I'm not gonna lie. I say yes. I know Gremlins is a classic for people. Here's the thing, though, for the people that disagree with, I get it. There was just something about Gremlins 1 that didn't really hit for me. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it, and it is a sweet movie, it didn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
But Gremlins 2, I've watched this movie, 5 times in the last week? Literally. Like just for the show, I've watched it several times, but I keep on watching it because I really, really like this movie. And now, like, far as the review goes and stuff like that, like, this movie, this was one of the hardest movies to write notes for because there's so much happens in this movie. If we passed over something, I'm sorry, but there's just so much. Like this. Yeah. This movie there's a lot to happen.
Yeah, that happens to say about that.
Yeah, there's a lot to happen in this 1 hour and 47-minute movie. I mean, it is go, go, go.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I like it more because there's just so much things. Like literally, it is very attention grabbing and stuff like that. I love all the cool new Gremlins. I think they're super sick. Rick Baker did a phenomenal job. I love Gizmo in this one. I love the Rambo references. I'm upset that we didn't get to see his dad and mom because I really love those characters from the first one. That would have been here's the thing. That would have been so much fun. Like, what if it was his parents visiting? Yes, the Futterman, Dick Miller's great, and it's a Joe Dante film, so you got to throw Dick Miller in it, and he did fantastic in the movie. But the thing is, like, my critique, and this is my last thing I'll say about it, my critique is to make this movie better, having his mom and dad show up to visit, having his mom and dad, not the Futtermans. Now, like I said, I don't remember why they didn't show up in the film. I don't know. Maybe they were asked and they couldn't. I'm sure it's somewhere on Wikipedia. Yeah. But in a perfect world, that's the way I would have made the film. But besides that, I love this movie, and I think it's better than the first. But now it's your turn.
Yeah. I think the first is better, just because the same reasons you like to, I don't like it. Just because it's so chaotic. Don't get me wrong, the Gremlins themselves are cooler. Like, I like that they all have different personalities. I like that they all like look a little different. I really like the goofy one. He's just funny looking.
When you say the goofy one, is it the one with the buck teeth or the
buck teeth?
The one with the buck teeth.
Some good old, if you give me any creature like gremlin or critter with buck teeth and a goofy look, it's great. Babies with like little gapped front teeth, super cute. Anything with gapped front teeth, great. Like the little furry thing from Madagascar with one tooth, so cute. But other than that, like, it's just way too much chaos with like the only storyline is them trying to destroy the Gremlins. Like, that's pretty much the only substance that the movie has. Versus 1, I like that it's heartfelt. I like that Gizmo was a Christmas present. The relationship between Gizmo and Billy, that's the stuff I kind of like, the more heartfelt things, rather than like the go, 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 go. Almost like, 2, in my opinion, is more like a Gremlin action film. Yeah. That's where all the action is that you didn't get in 1. And 1 is the heartfelt, mushy-gushy stuff that you don't get in 2.
Here's the thing is, I think you sparked something in me with what you just said. And I think that's the reason why I like 2 more. I associate Gremlins 1 with so much about Christmas, and I don't want to watch it any other time than December. That might be the reason why you can watch Gremlin 2 anytime. That might be the reason why, hands down, I really prefer this one more because I can just throw this movie on and just watch it. Gremlins 1, I'm not going to watch in July. I'm not going to watch in October. I'm going to wait till December comes, and we're going to sit down. We're going to eat dinner while we watch it. Like that's when I want to watch it. You know what I mean?
I don't discriminate. I'll watch it again at Christmas, but I'll watch stuff whenever I want to.
Well, this is
no matter the theme.
This is also probably be the year. I think this is the year that Grayson can probably watch it too.
Yeah,
I think he's old enough to not get scared.
Yeah. But definitely let us know what you guys think in the comments. Is the new batch better than the first batch? In general, is 2 better than 1? Join in the sequel fun and let us know what you guys think. So do you have any closing thoughts? Any parting shots?
No. I've said everything I want to say. That's literally like, I said, I love this movie. It's a great movie. And I understand why people don't like it that have a strong bond with the first one. I get it. I 100% get it. And I can see why maybe I might be an outlier in this scenario. But this movie, I'm so glad we got to cover it for, may there be a sequel for our special event May month. That's all I have to say.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode. Gremlins 2, the new batch, directed by Joe Dante. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out with us.
If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you think.
And be sure to follow us on all our social handles for any updates and what we got cooking in the future.
We'll be back with more reviews, so stay tuned. Until next time, I'm Becca.
And I'm Logan.
And thanks for visiting the Villa.